In the oldest world, being rich does not mean gold. It means your fire stays lit through the night. It means your teeth still work. It means your body carries enough fat to survive winter, while other bodies around you are already starting to fail. Every era has its own version of wealth. Every era gives the rich a different kind of distance, and the higher you climb, the less life touches you with its bare hands. You wake before dawn, and the first thing you notice is not fear. It is warmth. The fire did not die in the night. There is still fuel beside it. There is still meat hanging where smoke can harden it. There are still tools where you left them, not stolen, not broken, not traded away in desperation. Your shelter holds. Maybe it is hide, stretched tight against a frame. Maybe it is a rock shelter claimed early enough and defended long enough that it now feels like yours. Maybe it is built with bone, wood, sod, and labor from people who trust your judgment. Your cloak is thick. The stitching is tight. The beads worked into it are not there for survival alone. They are there because somebody had enough hours to waste on beauty. And in this world, wasted hours are one of the clearest signs of wealth. When other people look at you, they do not see coins. They see healed injuries. They see good teeth. They see a body that has been fed regularly enough to look different from the rest. Your wealth comes from steady access to food, steady access to fire, steady access to shelter that does not fail the moment weather turns cruel. At the feast, the best cuts reach you first. The elders notice you. The hunters respect you. The children stare at the things hanging from your neck because some of those materials came from far outside this valley. That is what being rich means here. Not luxury, not leisure, not excess. Just a life protected from randomness more than everyone else's is. In the beginning, wealth is simply this. You are less available to hunger, cold, and chance. Now the air is hotter and drier. The world is brighter. You are no longer sleeping under hide and smoke. You wake behind mud brick walls. Light falls across a courtyard. Somewhere nearby, bread is already being prepared. Water is already being carried. The day's work has begun before you are fully conscious, and most of it is not your work. This is one of the first great upgrades in the history of wealth. Food no longer lives out in the world where you have to chase it. Food lives under your roof. Your household has storage rooms filled high with grain and goods. You have linen that feels cool against the skin. You may have carved furniture made with imported wood from lands far away. You may have a garden, a pool, painted decoration, polished boxes, servants moving quietly through shaded space. Your money does not come from hunting skill anymore. It comes from grain, trade, storage, administration, and the labor you can command. Copper comes in, tin comes in, crafted goods go out. The house itself is a machine for turning distance into comfort. And that comfort is visible in the smallest things. The bed frame, the smooth cloth, the ability to bathe. The fact that when you are hungry, you do not leave home looking for food. Somebody else already organized that problem for you. That is what wealth becomes in this age. No longer just survival. Now it is separation. The rich do not merely live better than everyone else. They begin living apart from everyone else. Now wealth enters the city with confidence. You wake in a house built around display as much as shelter. There is a courtyard. There is water. There are painted walls, arranged rooms, fabrics with color still in them, and a kitchen staffed well enough that dinner is not a question, but an expectation. In the city, your life is organized for visibility. You host, you dine, you attend games from seats that remind you how far above the crowd you are. Jewelry glints in public. Clothing tells the story before you speak. And when the city becomes too loud, too cramped, too full of everybody else's needs, you leave. You ride out to a villa, further still, to an estate, to vineyards, fields, and production that continue whether you are standing there or not. Your money can come from many directions now. Urban property, trade, wine, land, loans, tenants, slavery. That is what makes this period so important. Wealth is no longer just stored, it is diversified. And the rich no longer merely own better objects. They own systems of labor large enough to hold up entire ways of life. That is the Roman upgrade. Comfort becomes organized, service becomes normalized, and luxury begins to feel like something that should happen automatically around you. Then the walls grow thicker, the rooms grow colder, and wealth becomes territorial in a way that is almost brutal in its honesty. You live behind stone, real stone, gatehouse stone, chapel stone, storeroom stone, walls that imply not just status, but endurance. Inside there are halls, kitchens, cellars, heated chambers, tapestries, armor, servants, and a level of protected space so large that ordinary people could never mistake it for their own world. When you go to the city, you do not search for a room. You have a townhouse waiting. When you stay on your land, the land itself keeps paying you back. People pay to live there. They pay to cross. They pay to use the mill. They pay to use the oven. They pay because daily life around them is threaded through assets that belong, in one way or another, to you. This is not elegant wealth. It is not subtle wealth. It is not modern wealth. It is wealth as controlled geography. You are rich because other people cannot pass through ordinary life without brushing up against your right to collect from it. And that changes the emotional texture of wealth. At this level, luxury is not the deepest privilege. Power is. Because now your comfort is backed not only by goods and servants, but by a miniature world arranged to keep transferring value upward into your hands. Then something softens, the walls become more refined, the rooms become more beautiful, and the power becomes quieter. You wake in a city palazzo. There are ledgers waiting, letters waiting, couriers arriving, accounts that need checking by someone else before they ever need checking by you. The household runs with managers, tutors, cooks, clerks, and people whose job is to keep the machinery of family, status, and finance moving smoothly enough that you can live above the noise of it. This is a different species of rich. Your money does not rely only on fields and rents. It comes from loans, transfers, deposits, currency exchange, church money, government money, war money. You are no longer simply wealthy because you control what grows. You are wealthy because you understand what moves. And because you understand what moves, artists appear in your orbit. Builders appear in your orbit. Politicians appear in your orbit. Patronage becomes a pleasure, but it is also a signal. You are rich enough now to shape not just your own house, but the cultural surface of the age around you. That is the Renaissance shift. Wealth becomes less physical and more abstract, less local and more relational. Less about standing on land and more about standing at the center of flows. Now the port matters, the river matters, the ships matter, the documents matter. You live in a world where cargo from one side of the ocean can become comfort on the other. Your house proves it. Imported wood, imported metal, imported cloth, imported flavors. But what really makes you rich is not the object at the end, it is the route in the middle. Ships are financed, voyages are insured. Cargo is loaded, unloaded, taxed, sold, and recorded. Paper follows everything, and if your name sits in the right place on enough paper, your wealth multiplies far beyond what a local estate ever could. That is why this era matters so much. Here, wealth takes one of its biggest steps away from inheritance, and one of its biggest steps towards systems. You are not powerful because your property stands still. You are powerful because goods move, and they move through structures you know how to organize, finance, and profit from. Distance stops being a danger. It becomes a business model. Then wealth becomes even more polished, even more administrative, even more elegantly detached from obvious physical effort. You live in a grand townhouse with decorated rooms and polished routines. The house runs on staff, stewards organizing the halls, cooks managing the fires, coachmen waiting in the yard, clerks and accountants making everyday order look effortless. But the real engine is not in the drawing room. It is in the books, in the right to collect, in the right to advance money upward and extract more of it back downward. By now, your life is connected to state need, collecting tax and revenue, managing credit, controlling smuggling and moving cash. This is wealth that wears silk and speaks softly. But underneath that softness is one of the hardest truths in the whole story. Money no longer has to come from making or growing anything directly. It can come from standing at the legal and administrative choke points through which other people's money must pass. That is a more modern kind of power, cleaner on the surface, colder underneath. Then speed enters the story, real speed. Now your house is gaslit, your office is full of contracts, your time is tied to train schedules, freight routes, investment plans, land deals, and industrial expansion. Weekdays belong to the city. Weekends can belong to the countryside because rail has compressed distance enough for the rich to live in both worlds almost at once. Your clothes are sharp. Your lunch is at the club. Your house has bells for staff and comforts that would have looked almost magical a century earlier. But none of that is the true source of the fortune. The real money comes from movement, from getting coal, cotton, grain, goods, and people from one place to another faster than before, from owning lines, owning access, owning the infrastructure that makes everybody else's business possible. This is one of the great escalations in the logic of wealth. The rich are no longer merely being served by households. They are being served by entire national systems of transport and finance that also happen to be paying them back. Wealth becomes velocity, and once money starts earning through speed, comfort becomes much easier to industrialize. Now the surfaces darken and smooth out. Mahogany, wool, and metal shape the rooms, while doormen, drivers, and quiet elevators smooth out the journey to your private club. You live at a prestigious address, you summer elsewhere. Your day begins downtown and ends in rooms where people speak softly because the money in the room is loud enough already. Your wealth no longer comes from the field, the workshop, or even the rail line itself. It comes from underwriting, from bonds, from mergers, from placing capital where it can enlarge itself through scale. At home, staff smooth the edges. At work, subordinates absorb the pressure. Associates stay late. Clerks move paper. Partners decide. By now, you are several layers away from ordinary production. You do not need to touch the factory. You do not need to touch the freight. You do not need to touch the shop floor. The system is already built. You are rich because you know how to steer it. That is the financial elite version of wealth. Not dirty hands, not visible struggle, just polished interiors and decisions that ripple outward through institutions too large for most people to even imagine clearly. Now wealth looks casual. That is one of its newest disguises. The hoodie is expensive, the sneakers are expensive, the watch costs as much as a car. The car alternates between electric understatement and loud excess depending on what the day requires. You live behind hedges, gates, cameras, glass, code pads, and carefully managed privacy. Inside, your house is not just a house. It is a compound of functions, a studio, a theater, a gym, a kitchen run at professional standard, office space disguised as living space disguised as effortless normalcy, and around you is the real proof of modern wealth, not just luxury goods, but luxury staffing. Someone handles the schedule, someone edits the image, someone secures the perimeter, and someone handles the risks before those risks ever need to become your mood. Your money may come from content, sponsorship, equity, licensing, brand ownership, investments, or some hybrid of all of it. But the deeper truth is this: your name itself has become a productive asset. And once your name becomes infrastructure, your life begins to operate like a company, even when it still looks like a home. That is the newest form of wealth. Not just having better things, having more and more of reality filtered before it reaches you. Meals are filtered, travel is filtered, meetings, exposure, problems, and interruptions are all filtered before they reach the room. The final luxury is not the pool or the theater or the car. It is insulation. At the beginning of history, being rich meant the cold had a harder time killing you. Then it meant grain under your roof, then water in your house, then servants, then land, then tolls, then ledgers, then routes, then rail, then capital, then brand, then teams, then private systems built around your time. You might think the story of wealth is just a story of nicer things. It is not. The deeper story is a story of distance. At first, wealth gives you distance from hunger, then from exposure, then from physical labor, then from uncertainty, then from ordinary inconvenience, then from direct contact with the systems that still shape everybody else's lives. The earliest rich person still had to live inside the world with both hands. The latest rich person lives behind layers. Layers of staff, layers of property, layers of legal protection, layers of technology, layers of image control, layers of scheduling, layers of people whose full-time job is to make sure life reaches them softened, organized, and late. That may be the biggest change of all. Wealth begins as protection, and by the end, it becomes a private operating system designed to keep more and more of reality from touching you directly at all.